But, obviously, the centerpiece, one of the key provisions for me was being able to get folks who are undocumented to go through a background check, criminal background check, pay back taxes, and then have a legal status. And that requires an entire administrative apparatus and us getting them to apply and come clean. I made a decision, which I think is the right one. That we should not accept applications until the legal status of this is clarified. I am absolutely convinced this is well within my legal authority. Department of Homeland Security's legal authority. If you look at the precedent, if you look at the traditional discretion that the executive branch possesses when it comes to applying immigration laws, I am convinced that what we're doing is lawful. And our lawyers are convinced that what we're doing is lawful. But the United States is a government of laws and separations of power. And even if it's an individual district court judge who's making this determination, we've got to go through the process to challenge it. And until we get clarity there, I don't want to bring people in. Have them apply and jump through a lot of hoops only to have it deferred and delayed further. Of course, there's one really great way to solve this problem. And that would be Congress going ahead and acting, which would obviate the need for executive actions. The majority of the American people, I think, still want to see that happen. I suspect it will be a major topic of the next presidential campaign. And so we will continue to push as hard as we can on all fronts to fix a broken immigration system. Administratively, we'll be prepared if and when we get the kind of ruling that I think. We should have gotten in the first place about our authorities to go ahead and implement. But ultimately, this has never fully replaced the need for Congress to act. And my hope is that after a number of the other issues that we're working on currently get cleared, that some quiet conversations start back up again, particularly in the Republican Party. About the short-sighted approach that they're taking when it comes to immigration. Okay. Christy Parsons. Question, thank you, Mr. President. More than 6 million Americans may soon lose health insurance if the Supreme Court this month backs the latest challenge to the Affordable Care Act. A growing number of states are looking for assistance as they face the prospect that their residents may lose federal insurance subsidies and their insurance markets may collapse. Yet, your administration has given very little to no guidance on how states can prepare. What can you tell state leaders and advocates who worry that healthcare markets in half the country may be thrown into chaos? President Obama, what I can tell state leaders is that under well-established precedent, there is no reason why the existing exchanges should be overturned through a court case. It has been well documented that those who passed this legislation never intended for folks who were going through the federal exchange not to have their citizens get subsidies. That's not just the opinion of me, that's not just the opinion of Democrats. That's the opinion of the Republicans who worked on the legislation. The record makes it clear. And under well-established statutory interpretation, approaches that have been repeatedly employed not just by liberal Democratic judges, but by conservative judges like some on the current Supreme Court. Interpret a statute based on what the intent and meaning and the overall structure of the statute provides for. And so this should be an easy case. Frankly, it probably shouldn't even have been taken up. And since we're going to get a ruling pretty quick, I think it's important for us to go ahead and assume. That the Supreme Court is going to do what most legal scholars who've looked at this would expect them to do. But, look, I've said before and I will repeat again, if, in fact, you have a contorted reading of the statute that says federal-run exchanges don't provide subsidies for folks. Who are participating in those exchanges, then that throws off how that exchange operates. It means that millions of people who are obtaining insurance currently with subsidies suddenly aren't getting those subsidies. Many of them can't afford it, they pull out. And the assumptions that the insurance companies made when they priced their insurance suddenly gets thrown out the window. And it would be disruptive not just, by the way, for folks in the exchanges. But for those insurance markets in those states, generally. So it's a bad idea. It's not something that should be done based on a twisted interpretation of 4 words. in, as we were reminded repeatedly, a couple thousand-page piece of legislation. What's more, the thing is working. I mean, part of what's bizarre about this whole thing is we haven't had a lot of conversation about the horrors of Obamacare because none of them come to pass. You got 16 million people who've gotten health insurance. The overwhelming majority of them are satisfied with the health insurance. It hasn't had an adverse effect on people who already had health insurance. The only effect it's had on people who already had health insurance is they now haven't. Assurance that they won't be prevented from getting health insurance if they've got a pre-existing condition. And they get additional protections with the health insurance that they do have. The costs have come in substantially lower than even our estimates about how much it would. Cost. Healthcare inflation overall has continued to be at some of the lowest levels in 50 years. None of the predictions about how this wouldn't work have come to pass. And so I'm optimistic that the Supreme Court will play it straight when it comes to the interpretation. And, b, I should mention that if it didn't, Congress could fix this whole thing with a one-sentence provision. But I'm not going to go into a long speculation anticipating disaster. Question, but you're a plan ahead kind of guy. Why not have a plan B? President Obama, well, you know. I want to just make sure that everybody understands that you have a model where all the pieces connect. And there are a whole bunch of scenarios not just in relation to healthcare, but all kinds of stuff that I do. Where if somebody does something that doesn't make any sense, then it's hard to fix. And this would be hard to fix. Fortunately, there's no reason to have to do it. It doesn't need fixing. All right? Thank you very much. Thank you to the people of Germany and Bavaria. You guys were wonderful hosts. Barack Obama. Post G7 press conference in Japan. Delivered May 26, 2016, Shima City, Japan. Hello, everybody. So, as all of you know, we're going to Hiroshima tomorrow. And in the interest of getting you all home at a reasonable hour, we're not going to be doing a press conference after. So I thought I'd give you guys a chance to fire off some questions now. Just a quick comment on the G7 meeting so far. It's been extremely productive. I think that one of the benefits of the G7 is that you have like-minded countries who are committed to democracy and free markets. And international law and international norms. And so for us to be able to get together and focus on critical issues that not only affect individual countries but affect the international order, I think is vitally important. And we very much appreciate the work that the Japanese and Prime Minister Abe have done in organizing an excellent meeting. So far, we've discussed issues of the global economy and the need to continue to accelerate growth. To use all the tools at our disposal to make sure that we're not only putting people back to work but also helping to lift wages and helping to make sure that we can sustain the momentum of the recovery that's taken place in the United States most prominently, but also we're starting to see some progress in Europe. The fact that the Greek debt crisis has been resolved for a reasonable length of time I think should help. But we've all got a lot of work to do. And we agreed to continue to focus on making sure that each country based on its particular needs and capacities, are taking steps to accelerate growth. We had a chance to talk about trade, not only TPP and our involvement in that. But also TTIP, and recommitted ourselves to making sure that we try to finish those negotiations before the end of the year. And emphasized the importance of pushing back against either protectionism or competitive currency devaluations. Or the kinds of beggar thy neighbor strategies that all too often end up leaving everybody worse off. We began to touch on some of the key security issues that are important to all of us: the South China Sea and maritime security. Touched on issues surrounding Ukraine, where we've started to see some progress in negotiations. But we're still seeing too much violence, and we need to get that resolved. And we're going to spend some time this evening tackling some of the other major international hotspots. So that gives you an update of where we're at so far. And with that, I'm just going to dive in, and you guys can ask some questions. And we're going to start with gardener.